they're doing the Russiagate stuff. They're suppressing Bernie. They're painting Tulsi as a Russian asset. They've done. They are obviously going after Bernie. And then you have Chris Matthews. Oh, Chris Matthews. I mean, where do you start with this idiot? And there's no other way to put it. I'm sorry if I'm being crass, but he's truly an idiot. An intentionally out of touch idiot. And what's funny about Chris Matthews is MSNBC has branded Chris Matthews as like understanding the average voter in Pennsylvania. And, you know, one with the worker bee. Yet, Chris Matthews thinks it's a little too strong.
I think the Democrats always miss the cultural piece. They seem to be right on the economics, but they miss the cultural piece. And how people feel about things. The Democrats are very cold about those things, and I think they really miss a chance to win by simply identifying with the feelings of the country better than they do. And that's the only thought I have tonight. And I caught it again tonight with Bernie Sanders saying, the country's corrupt, our system's corrupt. Be careful about that language, Bernie. You know, be careful that our system of politics is corrupt. That's too strong. I'm sorry, it has corrupt aspects. But to say our democracy is corrupt is a bad starting point with a lot of people's hearts about this country. That's what I think.
Oh, God. Be careful, Bernie. Our sponsors are listening. Be careful. That's too strong. Bank of America is not going to like that language on this network, Bernie. ExxonMobil is not going to like that language. American Petroleum Institute is not going to like that language. Pfizer is not going to like that language. Raytheon is not going to like that language. Bob Woodward does not like that language, Bernie. This is very, very offensive to the image that our voters and our viewers have of the country. Be careful, Bernie. And that was followed up by this doozy.
Bloomberg has already begun an apology tour by saying he's not for a stop and frisk anymore, which is a big part of his New York mayor's experience and his record for better or worse. So he's making adjustments. The fact that Elizabeth Warren is pulling back on Medicare for all immediately is more of a long-term transition. She's adjusting. They're all adjusting to the Democratic Party as it is right now. And the Democratic Party right now, I believe, is an anti-Trump party. I can tell from our ratings, people would much rather watch the decline and fall of Donald Trump than watch the battle among these people. They're just more interested in watching Trump go down. They like these hearings. They like what they're learning about this president. They like the evidence piling up against him much more than they like following the horse race, which tells me they really, really have one passion going into next year's election: beat Trump. I think that's driving everything. I think it's driving the Buttigieg surge right now, but that's a February surge. It's not a November surge. Are they really making a decision about Buttigieg, or are they looking for a parking place to slow this thing down? I think they're slowing the whole process down. They want a winner. That's what they want. They don't want a chance in the world of losing to Trump again. I think that's the ideology of the Democratic Party. Center left, yes, but you must beat Trump.
I'm going to remove Bernie for a minute. Hope you're not offended. Let's focus on Elizabeth Warren. Sorry if most of her is cut off. It's either cut off my head or, we'll just pick her up. So, Chris Matthews. Here we go. Chris Matthews. This guy is paid, by the way, I can't confirm this, but I believe around $5 or $6 million a year. So you would think he kind of understands politics a little bit. So Chris Matthews is saying that Michael Bloomberg, who, by the way, just formally announced he's running today, so get your Michael Bloomberg gear ready to go. Chris Matthews is saying, you know, Michael Bloomberg is understanding where the Democratic Party is. He's adjusting. Elizabeth Warren, she's looking at where the Democratic Party, and she's adjusting, meaning moonwalking away from Medicare for all. Interesting. So Chris Matthews is saying that Elizabeth Warren is adjusting because she's recognizing that the Democratic Party is not where that Bernie Sanders is. She's realizing that the Democratic Party is closer to where Chris Matthews and MSNBC is, so that's why she's adjusting. Then why Chris Matthews, and of course, nobody is on MSNBC to challenge this stupidity, why is it that since Elizabeth Warren has, quote-unquote, adjusted, meaning moved to the right, Why is it that since she's adjusted and moonwalked away from Medicare for All, which your network covered up during the debate, they didn't ask her, when they asked her about Medicare for All, they didn't say, hey, are you still for Medicare for All since you're basically proposing a public option and you're going to quote unquote then try to pass Medicare for All in year 3? I agree, Christopher. Let's call him softball. Why is it that as Elizabeth Warren is quote adjusting, her poll numbers are going down? Because she, according to Real Clear Politics, was in second place on the average of polls before she started moonwalking away from Medicare for All. Since she has moonwalked away from Medicare for All, her polling has gone down, both nationally and in Iowa and New Hampshire. So Chris Matthews, in his infinite wisdom, is saying almost like, oh, they're getting it. These candidates are getting it. They have to adjust and move to where the Democratic Party is. If that's the case, why are the numbers shrinking when they move, not where the Democratic Party is, let's call it what it is, when they move to the right? They are moving to the right. It's unbelievable. In addition to being wrong that Elizabeth Warren, like, quote unquote, adjusting is smart, because clearly it's not. She's declining in the polls based on her adjusting. Chris Matthews, I mean, honestly, I don't care if I get demonetized. What a f***ing moron. He is essentially saying that for the Democratic candidate to win, the Democratic candidate, it's not about the policies. It's just about who is anti-Trump enough. Who is the most anti-Trump and who presents themselves as the best bet to defeat Donald Trump. And Chris Matthews is gleaning that. Chris Matthews is gleaning that that is who's going to win the nomination based on, because MSNBC is seeing a ratings increase for the hearings against Donald Trump. By the way, Donald Trump is corrupt. I agree with him. The impeachment, I think Donald Trump should be impeached. I disagree with some of my friends on the progressive left who say there's nothing to see here in these hearings, and I just don't agree. I mean, it's very clear. You know, bribery and quid pro quo, it usually doesn't work with, like, the person saying, here is your bribe, and spelling B-R-I-B-E. That's not how it works. I think there's, like, this semantic argument right now going on among people saying nothing to see here, that Trump never actually said quid pro quo or, you know, this never said the words. That's not how bribes work. It's never articulated that it's a bribe. So I think Trump is corrupt. I think it's very important to beat him. But basically, Chris Matthews, from that wisdom he just shared on air, besides saying that Bernie is being too strong in calling the country corrupt, usually people who are corrupt and are down with corruption don't like the term corruption being thrown around. He's also saying that the way to beat Donald Trump is to run the same exact campaign that Hillary Clinton ran in 2016. Brilliant observation, Chris Matthews. So Hillary Clinton, I could tell you because I was there and I covered a lot of her rallies. I obviously covered a lot of Bernie rallies, a lot of Trump rallies. Hillary Clinton's campaign was essentially Trump is the Antichrist. Trump is a unique threat to the country. We've never seen anything like him, and now is not the time for perfection in a Democratic candidate. We need to come together to stop Trump. That was the Democratic Party's campaign. That's pretty much what I heard at the DNC last year, and that's pretty much what Hillary Clinton's campaign was. It was a lot of vague, opaque messaging about stronger together. Her economic message, as much as I could understand it, was essentially a continuation of Barack Obama. There was no, like, grand plan, like a Medicare for All or a Green New Deal or anything that tangible that was going to lift workers. Thank you, Andy P. $5 in the super chat. Corruption is the key unifying issue. So what Chris Matthews is saying, I could tell from our viewers that the real winning recipe to taking out Trump is picking a candidate that's the most anti-Trump. Picking a candidate that could just beat Trump. So let's choose a candidate that's going to run the same campaign that Hillary Clinton ran. That's going to give us a different result. What I want to get across as we button up this topic, I think that in 2016, unfortunately, there was, obviously there's a lot of anger and frustration on social media against MSNBC, CNN, but there wasn't really past social media anything. When I say that, I don't mean like we should take that anger out physically or violence towards anybody. Of course not. We're not talking about violence in any means. We don't condone that. But honestly, to me, what at this point would be the difference between organizing a protest outside BlackRock's headquarters, which we just covered a couple weeks ago, or organizing a protest outside, I don't know, Raytheon, or organizing a protest outside Bank of America or Goldman Sachs. The people that organize those protests do it because these are corporations that have unprecedented impacts in our lives, from the economy and the income inequality to the planetary destruction to the murder that's going on in this country in the for-profit health insurance industry. I'm here to say, I think MSNBC has just as much influence as those other corporations. I don't think they have as much influence, let's say, as BlackRock. I mean, MSNBC doesn't have the influence of a BlackRock in terms of destroying the planet. But MSNBC is... People need to protest. I'm talking nonviolence. And by the way, I'm not talking about protesting, get out there for Bernie. I'm not talking about a protest on behalf of Bernie Sanders. Because I think that is the quickest way for it to be ignored and diminished. I'm talking about there needs to be protests of these media networks who are clearly working on behalf of establishment candidates. And by the way, I would have no problem at all. I've always said this about Fox News, by the way. I would have no problem at all if Fox News just came out and said, yeah, we're a conservative network. We believe in the Republican Party's ideals. We have a Republican slant, but of course, we want to invite anyone on. But this is what we are. That's what you're getting. Truth in advertising. That's it. I would also have no problem if MSNBC just came out and said, yeah, we support the Democratic establishment. We believe in, moderate to pro-business policies, and that's what our content represents. But we welcome anybody on. But when networks like MSNBC and CNN present themselves as just neutral arbiters, this has much more impact in terms of disinformation, propaganda, and ultimately swaying elections. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.